Good morning, everybody. I'm John Clark, and this is the Made in Paradise podcast. These are my co-hosts, Darren Fingleton and Anthony Ferguson. We're so happy to have you. Wednesday, May the 20th. At the end of this video, we're going to talk about deals because we're in the deal business. But we also talk about life. And today, by request, I'm going to talk about my guru, Maharaji Babaneem Karoli. And so years and years ago, when I was 30, so that's almost 26 years ago, someone passed me a book called Be Here Now. It's written by, the author's name is Ram Dass, and it's full of artwork in the middle. Ram Dass was a Harvard professor, friends with Timothy Leary, and through his exploration of psychedelics was led to India, where he met Babaneem Karoli, who became his guru and taught him many things about the nature of reality. And so I read that book when I was in my 30s, or when I was 30. And then later in Costa Rica, I found an original copy of that book in a Spanish bookstore, a Spanish-speaking bookstore full of Spanish books. I found an English original $3.33 copy of Be Here Now and read it again. And of course, reading it, the difference between reading it in my 30s and my 40s was dramatic. For the information in it is about the nature of consciousness and being here now, the present, how important the present is in our lives. And so it was revolutionary to me that second time. And I actually read it twice back to back because I really wanted to get the information out of it at that moment. And it was about that time that I was experimenting with ayahuasca in the jungles of Costa Rica with various shamans. And one of the more respectful, holy shaman that I met had a ceremony to inaugurate his new temple. And during that ceremony, Babaneem Karoli appeared to me and told me a whole bunch of things. And if you know about ayahuasca, that's pretty common experience that you'll meet a being. Sometimes they call that being Mother Earth, or you'll meet a saint or Jesus. But this particular ceremony, I met Babaneem Karoli, and he had other saints with him. And Babaneem Karoli and those other saints told me a whole bunch of things and changed really the way that I thought. And so I began to follow him in the respect that I began to study his life. And I've studied his life very extensively, and I've written literally hundreds of thousands of words about him. There's a book called Miracle of Love that documents maybe 1,000 reported miracles that he performed during his lifetime. He died in 1973 when I was 3 years old. And so I think it's also important to say what the guru is, because the meaning of the word guru is one who brings light to our life, right? And so I simply think of the guru as a mirror of perfect clarity, right? The guru, a person who is enlightened, that is a person whose mind is always concentrated on the higher self. If the mind is always concentrated on the higher self, then the mind is always thinking about others. That's what enlightenment is. So when we look at an enlightened being like Jesus or Babaneem Karoli or Anandamayi Ma or Ramana Maharshi or any of these enlightened beings, when we look at those enlightened beings, they're a mirror for us to be able to see where we're not clean, right? To see where we're missing the mark of who we want to be and who we can be. So the guru reflects back who we should be. And Babaneem Karoli said, really, he wasn't the kind of person to just give out a bunch of rules, but he said one thing over and over and over again, and that was love everybody, serve everybody, remember God, and tell the truth. And so he said that over and over and over and over. If you think about it, when you think about love everybody, the Bible says love your neighbor as yourself. It's exactly the same thing, right? serve everybody, right? Having a humble heart is the same thing that Jesus said, right? He humble ourselves and become a servant to others. Remembering God, and we've talked about this so many times recently, remembering God, remembering our higher self, remembering why we're here, remembering goodness, all of those things are extremely important. And we need to remember moment by moment, everyone does, right? It's just really basic things. And so that was one of the things that drew me to him is he's not a complicated person. His teachings are not complicated to understand. It's love one another, right? But with Jesus, you got 10,000 interpretations. And with Bob and Eden Crowley, he was just here, right? He was just here, just left there in 1973. Still lots of people who were with him that can tell you about miracles he performed in front of them, if you're a person who believes in miracles. So there's my introduction. Anthony Ferguson, you said you have questions.
Right.
You're going to go first. Don't make me cry. Don't make me emotional because we know then I feel vengeful and I want to take it back out on you, right? So don't, because tomorrow is the Anthony Ferguson interview. Okay, I'm ready.
Right.
Hit me with the questions.
How would Maharaji define real happiness?
Well, you decide if you're happy or not, right? Maharaji said, I love suffering and I love sickness because it brings me closer to God. Right? Happiness is the thing that you define. You say you're happy or you're not happy. So if you ask Maharaji, I'm not happy, I want to be happy, he would say, love everybody, serve everybody, feed people, tell the truth, right? Stop focusing on being unhappy. Why are you focused on that? Focus on these things and you will be happy. It's so hard to really serve people and be unhappy.
Right.
It just is. It's hard to have the heart to say, I want to serve you and to be unhappy. All right, go ahead.
And what does Maharaji teach about suffering? I mean, what was the recommendation if someone is under pain, or what would Maharaji say to them?
So you're asking if a person came to him and said, I have cancer and I'm suffering.
Right.
Right? Well, that's going to be an individual answer depending upon who comes to it. Right? So if you're asking how did he suggest that we deal with suffering in general, turn your heart back towards God. Right? Turn your heart back towards God. When you're loving other people, that's what you're doing. When you're feeding other people, that's what you're doing. You're turning your heart back towards God. Most people in their suffering are focused on their suffering, and most of the suffering that we're doing goes on in our mind, does it not?
Right. So
Maharaji, it's when we've turned our mind against ourselves. Right. So what Maharaji teaches is use your mind for yourself. Focus on goodness, and goodness is going to follow. But he even says, the karma that people were destined to undergo can be removed by the grace of the guru. So there's that much grace in God when we really turn our thoughts away from suffering. Go ahead.
Right. No. So what is the purpose of life according to Maharaji?
What is the purpose of life?
Right.
According to Maharaji, to learn to love. I mean, that's the purpose of our incarnation, because when we become perfect love, we merge back into God. So as long as our love is imperfect, we stay here. But when it becomes perfect, we become one with the divine.
So Maharaji described God as love? Is that what you mean to say?
Yeah, yes. And Maharaji was also said to be a reincarnation of the god Hanuman. And the god Hanuman, in the story of the Ramayana in India, is the eternal servant of God. Very, very similar in stature and description to Christ, and the way Christ serves the Father. Hanuman serves Rama, and all Hanuman's desire is to serve Rama, right? And one more thought towards Rama, and he is Rama. Because he says, when I don't know who I am, I serve you. When I know who I am you.
Wow.
Okay, now here's the I am that we talk about all the time. I'm gonna repeat this again. Hanuman says to Rama, when I don't know who I am, I serve you. When I know who I am you. You see, the moment that we become perfect love, we merge back into God, and then these incarnations in this earth realm are over unless we are what the Buddhists call a bodhisattva, and we return and we incarnate only for the purpose of helping other souls to advance. A person who is born enlightened like Ananda Mahima or Ramana Maharshi and others.
Right. So, and what is the ego according to Maharaji? How to deal with it?
I mean, Anthony, all of these questions come back to the same thing. If you went to Maharaji and said, Maharaji, do you believe meditation is good? He would say, go serve people. Don't meditate. Go serve people. Go love people. Go serve people. His way was a way of devotion and service, right? Devotion is love, bhakti yoga, right? And service to others. That softens the heart. Think about how many people, just think about anyone in your life, and if you need to find some humility, that person needs to find some humility. Imagine them washing someone else's feet.
Right. No way. I mean,
no way, right? They're not going to do it. And that's what Maharaji is teaching. You need to humble your heart and serve others. And when you do that, there's a transformation that happens, because you get to understand that there is no other. The other is you. Everything outside of you is you. You're living in the echo of your past thoughts. But so many people are trapped in the illusion of what they think this is, the life and the death and the material and all of that. They're chasing after shiny baubles and rocks while there's a way bigger drama playing out.
Right. And I have one more question for you, which is, if you believe that each one of us has God within us, why do you believe in Maharaji?
Well, the first thing that came to my mind is because I'm far from enlightenment. And what I mean is that if you're enlightened, you have no need for Maharaji, because Maharaji is the reflection of the enlightenment, right? So as long as we're not enlightened and moving in that direction, then we all pick something to be the guru. Now, most people pick money or greed or power, which are all just pretty much the same thing. And that's their guru. And that's the reflection that they look at. And they look at people with money and they say, I want to be like that because I want to make my dreams come true. But if money made your dreams come true, Hollywood would be a bunch of success stories in marriage. And it's exactly the opposite.
Wow.
Right? And Jim Carrey said, I wish people could get all the money they wanted and everything they wanted at least once, so they can see that doesn't solve everything. And it doesn't. It's better to have money than to be poor, no question. But to have money as your guru is not good. You say, why do I have, if I believe God's inside me, do I have that guru? I'm still trying to believe what he believed, what he believes, right?
It's like a spiritual guide.
I'm still trying to get there. The reflection of still, yeah, right. I'm still looking at it and saying, okay, right. I'm not that. I know I'm not that, and I should be that, and I'm not that. So I'm continuing to work that direction.
It's like a personal trainer or a dietitianist. They're just helping you on the right path.
Exactly. That's the one who brings the light, right? And so if you, Jesus said, no man can serve God and money. Either he loves one and hates the other, or serves one and despises the other, right? Nobody serves God in money. And so most people's guru, the thing that they think is bringing guidance to their life, is just follow the money, follow the power, right?
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't bring satisfaction, doesn't bring contentment, doesn't bring peace of mind. And those things are very, very precious, right? We were just talking this morning before this podcast started about somebody in Anthony knows that gets up every day and turns on the news and poisons themselves. They poison themselves and poison themselves and poison themselves. And then once they're good and poisoned, they go and try to vomit that poison on everybody else around them.
News that's from across the world.
Darren's turn. Darren?
John, in the beginning, you said one of his core teachings was love everyone, serve everyone, remember God, and tell the truth. Which one of those really hit you the hardest and why?
To tell the truth, because in order to do it, you have to really be committed to it. You have to make sure that what you're saying right now is going to hold up in the future. Or whatever you do right now, you're never going to have to lie about it. So that takes a whole lot of pre-planning that I didn't realize when I committed to it. And I had committed to it before Maharaji. So me and the telling the truth thing happened in my 30s when I saw some karma boomerang on a lie that I had told. And I very clearly saw the karma and I thought, that's because I lied and I didn't need to. Because a lot of times when people lie, you don't need to. The truth will work just fine. Right?
Is there
just
how you
present it, right? And we've talked about this. How you present the truth is very important. Go ahead.
Right. I was going to ask, is there a difference between not telling the whole truth or lying?
Treat others the way you want. Treat others the way you want to be treated. Not all truth carries with it the necessity for delivery, right? Not all truth carries with it the necessity for delivery. If you're misleading someone, that's lying, right? You wouldn't want that done to you.
Right.
But for example, we can do a deal and I don't have to tell the other person what I'm making. Right. I'm not lying to them. I'm not lying to them. And it is true, but I don't need to tell them. That doesn't infer that I'm not misleading them in any way.
Right. He never wrote a book, never gave long speeches, and yet, he's a global impact. Everyone knows him. What does that say about how truth actually travels?
Well, the story of what happens with Ram Dass is an incredibly peculiar and interesting story, right? And how Ram Dass gets to Maharaji and all those things. And I heard Sadhguru say one time of Maharaji was a saint that wanted to open many windows all over the world. So he picks a guy who's a Harvard-educated psychologist who's really into psychedelics and has him write this book called Be Here Now, along with all the artwork that goes along with it. It becomes a revolutionary book, right? And that transmits his message all over the West. In India, it's different, and they read different books about him. But in India, his fame and his legend came from the miracles he performed. That's why in Miracle of Love, there's so many documented miracles. But they say that there's thousands of more. That he was just doing it. He was just doing it basically on a daily basis everywhere that he went. And so in India, the way the information traveled was completely different.
Right. Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, Julia Roberts, Ram Dass, and who was the Beatles guy? Was it Paul McCartney?
Well,
that
no.
Found their way to.
I don't know that it was George Harrison, but I don't think George Harrison ever met him. Not that I'm aware of. No.
Well, those Steve Jobs, Mark Zuckerberg, they all found their way to Baba. What is it about, some Indian guy sitting out on a temple on his blanket that speaks to some of the most successful people in the world?
Well, the story of Maharaji is completely unique. And when it started, there's no internet. So the information is just rumor. There's a guy, he's a saint, he can perform miracles, he's done it in front of people. It was just rumor, and his location was kept secret. This is all, you can read about this and Be Here Now and other texts. And his location was kept secret. And he wanted his location kept secret. So then when the information began to travel, it just so happened that Steve Jobs was reading Autobiography of a Yogi, read Be Here Now, and said, I'm going to go find this guy. Now, when Steve Jobs get there, he had already left his body. He'd already died. And so at that time, from what I can remember, there weren't a lot of people that you thought were really enlightened saints walking around on the earth. But the idea was, hey, there's a guy like Jesus, and he's alive, and we can go over there and meet him, and he can touch you and change your life. And so if when we think about that right now, do we believe that that's real? Do we believe that there is a person that could just reach out and zap you? And I have to tell you that I don't think anything that can happen to you that you haven't designed for your own life. So if you met a saint and he touched you and you became a saint, I think that was because you were already going to become a saint because of your own desire. And that just happened to be the moment, but you're still the one creating it. Go ahead, Anthony.
Sorry, well, what about the belief? If you believe, it will work, isn't it? Or there's no need for any belief.
That's the theology. The theology is that we're living in the echo of our previous beliefs, whatever those happen to be. That we choose these incarnations, and we're free to believe whatever we want to believe from the stimulus, which is what we've chosen, right? So we've chosen a program, and then we choose to react to that program. That's what life is.
Do you still think that these high-powered people are still following anything that Baba had to teach and offer?
I wrote an article not too long ago about Steve Jobs and received a lot of negative feedback about it. And my mentor Brooks used to say, when I would complain about the behavior of certain church people, he would listen to me, and then he would wait until I was finished and then let some silence hang, and he would say, remember, John, God sees what they do right, and all you look at is what they do wrong. And so when you say, do these famous people still follow Baba, or do they still have him in their life? I absolutely believe that's true. Now, you might say, well, Mark Zuckerberg sure doesn't show any evidence of it. Okay. I know a lot of people, if they were in Mark Zuckerberg's position, they might behave exactly like he does. Just to be honest,
a lot of scrutiny.
If they were in Bezos's position or Musk's position or any of these super rich billionaires that you want to talk about, I think that some of their bad behavior might get amplified, right? But yes, Darren, I think once Maharaji has entered your life, that you're just going to continue to remember his teachings in one way or the other, and re-encounter them, as a matter of fact. Not just that, re-encounter them.
Mm-hmm. He was never seen without his blanket, right? He had that plaid wool blanket that he was, it became a symbol of basically who he was. And the people that are his true believers believe that blanket holds an energy, his energy. Do you think that an object like that can absorb his consciousness?
No, I don't think it absorbs his consciousness. I think that blanket is what you believe that blanket to be. And I think any object is the same thing, and you say, well, what do you mean by that? I mean, think about this. You're not with your wife right now. Someone, you haven't seen her in 3 or 4 hours. Someone you know well calls you on the phone, tells you that, sit down, your wife's been in a car accident and she's been taken to the hospital, and they explain it to you. In that moment, you believe that in a way, even if it's not true, you'll completely believe it, right? You see what I mean? Even if it's not true, in that moment, your whole being changes. It's like you changed into a different dimension, even if it's not true, because you believe that statement. You can be moved like that. Some people are moved by that object and some people aren't.
But you use
Right?
that as a hard example, right? I mean,
Okay, but he's asking me about the consciousness of Baba Neem Karoli, right? Baba Neem Karoli was an enlightened being, so he was a Christ. And just like any other Christ, like Jesus Christ or Ramana Maharshi Christ or any other enlightened being, once they've become part of the one, they're always here, right? Because Christ is always here because Christ is in us. So they're always here. And the part of them that was unique, their personality or whatever else that you believe in, you can access it to the point that you believe in it. But don't make the mistake that the person of Baba Neem Karoli, the person of Yeshua, Jesus, that person, Ramana Maharshi, that personality, that ego, all of that's just like a program, and the Christ is behind it. So once you merge back into the Christ, well, if you want the program back, here it is. But you already know it's a puppet in front of perfect love, in front of the Christ.
Well, he always discouraged, because he's made a lot of miracles happen, or what people claim to be his miracles. He always discouraged his followers to not focus in on the miracles as much and to instead look inward. Why do you think most spiritual leaders do the opposite of that?
For control. So you pay them. I went to an evangelical church not too long ago here in Costa Rica because I got invited, and I hadn't been in one in years and years and years. And I saw the kind of grifting is the word, right? We're just trying to get money off of people. And the pastor's down on his knees on the stage and he's sweating, and there's a camera close up and he's going on and on. And we got to have this money, right? And yeah, that's not God. That's not it.
Yeah, I've always felt like the donation baskets that they pass around, to me, it's. I was at a church here recently, and they passed them around twice, and the pastor said himself, the first round didn't go so well, so we're going to send them out again. And then he said something about, whoever his associate was, he needs a little bit of extra cash, you know. So I really felt like the way I took it wasn't nearly as well as what I think everybody else took it. So it kind of disheartened me in that.
What church has become is nothing like it was in the Bible. There were no mega churches in the Bible, right? Somebody just said, well, there was this one day where they had this meeting and there was like 3,000 people with Peter, and that was the first mega church. No, that was a festival in a field, not a mega church, right? No, it was not. I mean, the last church I attended, when I attended it 20 some odd years ago, it cost $1.1 million a month, just the expenses. So they had to collect $1.1 million a month before they could do any good with the money. They could give any money away, or do missionary work or anything else. They had to collect $1.1 million from the congregation. And thousands of people attended, so that happened every month. But I'm just saying, you at this point in your life, having spent so much mentor one-on-one time with me intentionally trying to teach you about things, you can see the ineffectiveness of sitting in a church where you get this little snippet of information and then no life experience to go along with it. People need real spiritual education. It takes time to teach it, especially when everything on the outside teaches you the opposite.
Right. Yeah. One time I hear this preacher said, I was following this guy on YouTube, and he said, whenever you come into church, please remember to bring two things with you. I'm like, okay, probably faith and love. And he said, your Bible and your wallet. And I'm like, what? This guy say wallet? I mean, it's sad, right? I mean, you're expecting to go to church and find your alignment with this God and feel free and feel calm and feel love. But He said literally, bring your Bibles and bring your wallet. So you can see which is
Well, in a future episode, if y'all want to talk about it, I have a lot to. Brooks had a lot to say about tithing, and I can
Right,
tell you
right.
some tithing stories from me and Brooks in the past. But it's about time now to talk about deals and get on with
Well,
our
I got
day.
one last question.
We got
I got
stuff,
one
we
last
got stuff to
question.
say. Okay, let's go. One question.
I got one last question. John, in one sentence, what's the single most important thing Baba understood about being humans that most people will never figure out?
Wow.
To respect the present, to be here now.
Perfect.
All right.
All right, let's get.
Here we go. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm John Clark, along with my co-hosts Darren Fingleton and Anthony Ferguson, and we are the Proven Performer crew. And we sponsor the Made in Paradise podcast with our earnings. So we hope you enjoyed this podcast we've just finished. If you did, please like and subscribe. We could sure use it. And there's a lot of other wisdom in our other podcasts. So please go back and enjoy those too. But every day we try to talk about a new deal, and we do big liquidations. Today, the liquidation is on Godlinger margarita glasses. Godlinger crystal cut margarita glasses in 6 ounce. It's a set of 4. These retail at $49.95. Darren, I believe they're $39.95 on Amazon. Can you pull up Amazon real quick? Let's take a look at that.
Give me 1 second. Pulling it up. There you go.
Yeah, so they're $39.99 on Amazon from Godlinger, which is a very well-known brand in crystal glasses. We have 6,000 sets available. There's 160 sets on a pallet. The price is $8 a set today. As we know, that can change quickly. Please reach out to us via WhatsApp at one of the phone numbers below or via email. We would love to talk to you about this Godlinger crystal glass set in retail box, UPC code, completely retail ready. There it is there. 8,000 sets available, 160 sets on a pallet. FOB New Jersey. FOB New Jersey. We'd love to talk to you about these, and it doesn't have to be a take all. So if you want to take less than take all, let's talk about it. We'd love to talk to you about it. Again, I'm John Clark for the Made in Paradise podcast. Thank you so much for listening. We're here every week, every day, Monday through Friday, with wisdom and deals. Please like and subscribe, and we'll see you tomorrow.
It was fun. See you guys.